Week is a week-long campus recruiting career fair. It's the largest career fair in the accounting industry, and it's free, and it's for firms and for college students to connect to each other online. We're really excited to have the Association of Accounting Marketing as a partner, as well as Deloitte, as well as CPA Excel, Innovatus Consulting, and the Association of Accounting Administration, and a few others. Let me tell you quickly about AIM. The Association of Accounting Marketing is the only trade association of its kind that provides resources and support to more than 800 CPA and consulting firm marketing and sales professionals, firm administrators, and representatives of businesses who offer products and services to the accounting industry. If you're interested in learning more about AIM, I'll tell you about a special offer AIM has for membership after the presentation. But on a personal level, I have just been blown away by the audience. I know many of you are on the recruiting side, or maybe your administrator who has to do recruiting. And marketing is recruiting, and recruiting is marketing. They go hand in hand, and I think everybody's probably agreeing with me on that. And what I love about AIM is that while they're clearly focusing on marketing the firm's businesses, a lot of the members are really involved in recruiting, and that's why I'm excited about this conversation today. So what I'm going to do is get out of the way and turn it over to Emily. Oh, Emily, let me get my advanced slide here. So Emily Perryman is with Freed Maxick in Buffalo. She's an integrated media and digital strategy supervisor, and Emily has been a great trusted resource on all things relative to online marketing and blogging and having a great career website. They do things right at Freed Maxick with regards to marketing to college students. So I'm always impressed with Emily. Emily, I'd like to turn it over to you, and you can kick things off and introduce the rest of your outstanding panel today. Thank you so much.
Great, Jeff. Thank you so much for inviting all of us to take part in the webinar today. I'm sure that each one of us has some really good insight and experience to share with everyone on the call. And as Jeff mentioned, I'm Emily Burns-Perryman. I'm going to serve as moderator today, but I'm also going to jump in with some experience and insight that I can share with the group as well. I'm the Integrated Media and Digital Strategy Supervisor for Freed Maxick CPAs. We're headquartered in Buffalo, New York, and we have about 300 employees with offices in Batavia, Rochester, and Syracuse, New York. I'd like to introduce our panelists one by one. First, I'd like to introduce Maria Barrett, who is the Director of Marketing for Padgett, Stratemann Co. Maria, do you want to tell the group a little bit about yourself and your firm?
Absolutely, Emily. Well, thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of today's call. Looking forward to it. Padgett Stratemann is actually the second largest CPA and business advisory firm that operates in the Austin-San Antonio corridor, which is based in Texas. We've been in business for nearly 60 years. We employ 200 professionals, about which 30 are partners. I do serve as the firm's marketing director. However, I've spent the last 18 years doing marketing specifically for professional service firms. So I have a lot of background in that particular area. As far as it goes with my role with recruiting, I work extremely close with our HR team, specifically our HR director. We are charged with designing and executing and measuring Padgett Stratemmann's brand strategies when it comes to the complete recruiting process for campus recruits as well as experienced hires, and then following that through to onboarding, and then also specifically as it relates to a program that really is the backbone of our organization, which we refer to as the Padgett Experience. And I'm sure as we answer some of these questions, I'll have an opportunity to share more in depth of exactly what the Padgett Experience is and why it's so critical to our organization.
Great, thank you so much. And then next I'd like to introduce Summer Brooks, who is a campus recruiter for Dixon Hughes Goodman. And Summer, if you could just do the same thing and introduce yourself and tell the group a little bit about your firm.
Sure. As Emily stated, I am Summer Brooks, and I am a campus recruiter with Dixon Hughes Goodman based out of our Greenville, South Carolina office. We are a public accounting firm, and we are the largest headquartered in the southern United States and the 15th largest in the U.S. We have roughly 1,800 employees, of which 240-ish are partners or principals. We have 31 offices as of yesterday, over 11 states, from D.C. down to Jacksonville, Florida, and then all the way west to Dallas, Texas, and it kind of goes in a half-moon arc all the way in between, with our headquarters being in Charlotte, North Carolina. And my job is we have 6 campus recruiters, and my region is South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia.
Great, thank you. And then next, I'd like to introduce Fonda Lang, who is the Practice Development Manager for Kieter, along with Mandy Nevius, who is the Manager of Human Resources for Kieter as well. So if each one of you ladies could also just talk a little bit about your role and your firm, that would be great as well.
Thank you, Emily. My name is Fonda Lang. I have over 15 years of professional services marketing experience, and 12 of those years have been here at my current firm, Kieter. Kieter is the largest local and independent CPA firm in Richmond, Virginia. So I think we're going to be able to give a perspective for some of the smaller firms that are listening in today, mid to smaller size firms. We have 130 staff, and 20 of those are partners. We are in one office here. We do have 2 full-time marketing staff and 2 recruiting staff. One of the things, we do a lot with recruiting. Mandy, I'm sure, can speak to this a little bit more, but we have onboarded 54 new hires in 2013. This includes all of our intern programs, seasonal and permanent staff. And as a few of you have already said, recruiting and marketing, we work very closely together. It goes hand in hand on all recruiting initiatives. So to tell a little bit more, I'm going to turn this over to Mandy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mandy Nevius. I've been with Kieter for 13 years and in professional services for 15. And I couldn't agree with Jeff more. Recruiting is marketing. We work very closely with marketing. In fact, Fonda and I sit next door to each other. And I oversee our entire HR function. I do focus a lot on recruiting. And we place a heavy emphasis at our firm on recruiting and training. We believe that it's important to get the right talent in the door, and then in order to keep that talent, we want to make sure that we are continuing to develop them. And I will help answer any questions on some of our strategies for on-campus recruiting.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. We're going to go into talking about a few of the trends that some of us in the industry have seen. And these were actually discussed on a webinar not too long ago. But we thought we'd like to share a few of the trends that we all have experienced and have started to see. We're noting that recruiting is on the rise, and that's a good thing, but it also can be a challenge because it makes it harder to find the staff that your firm needs to operate and grow. So there's got to be different strategies and tactics that firms can employ to make it easier to identify the staff that you need. In addition, we noticed that college students are looking to interact with their potential employers in new ways, much different from years past. And I think when a lot of our panel members today talk about employing technology and some of the digital tools in their recruiting efforts, we can kind of focus on some of the different ways that college students are wanting to interact with potential employers. In addition, we're seeing that many CPA firms, as I said, are turning to technology to assist in their efforts. Some are implementing mobile sites, using video, and of course social media are many of the digital tools that we're seeing people use. So we're going to talk about all these trends today and also just talk about some of the best practices that each one of us has experienced. So the first questions we're going to dive into are actually the behavioral questions. And the first question I have, which I'm going to direct to Fonda and Mandy first, is what is the most popular way that you are connecting with your recruits today, and why do you think that it's so popular?
Okay, that's a really good question. We're finding that visibility is key, and it's part of our strategic approach to recruiting. We do use digital tools, but we find that the face-to-face meetings with the candidates helps us to align the interpersonal skills we're looking for in a new hire, and it also exposes them to our firm culture. We do this in various ways, and I know we'll get a little bit more in detail a little bit further on, but career fairs and on-campus interviews, we're heavily involved in those. We have up to 50 of our staff, ranging from associates to partners, that participate in some form of on-campus activity each year. We also partner with a lot of the student organizations, presentations, and we sponsor meetings. But essentially, we're on campus as much as we possibly can be.
And this is Mandy. To piggyback on that a little bit, we really leverage our student organizations. I am not the on-campus recruiter. We do have Elizabeth Chenault who does that, but I go and work very closely with NABA, with BAP, Beta Alpha Psi, which is the Accounting Honors Society, and I help prepare them. I teach them elevator speeches. I know that's a little bit going to the, it's passe now, but we do try to help them get some tools to work the career fairs and to answer some of the questions on interviews. And one of the things that I always tell students is, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, how would you relate? How would you act in front of a client? So again, the visible presence helps us gauge that for our client needs as well.
Great. So it looks like you guys are really focusing on that one-on-one in-person interaction.
Correct.
And then going on to Maria, what are your thoughts on that question? What are the most popular ways that you and your firm are connecting with recruits today?
Well, I'm going to have to completely agree with Fonda and Mandy because they said a lot of the same things. That is exactly what we're focused on. We do see the most traction when we have one-on-one interactions with potential recruits. And so it's about the building of the relationships. It's no different than how you look at it from the client side of your organization. It comes down to the number of touches that we can have with a potential candidate that allows them to share with us and us listen to what their true story is and what their desires are, as well as for us to do a great job of sharing what the Padgett experience is about, because we do realize not everybody's going to be a fit for our organization. So we do want to make sure that the people that we're continuing through the process really are the strongest candidates. We've also found that career centers can be extremely useful to us. We have noted that there are some that are just extremely dynamic when it comes to connecting with their student body, and we recognize which ones those are and make sure we're investing good time with them and getting valuable information about ways that we can continue to connect with the students. And then, of course, their job boards are also extremely beneficial if it's a campus that's got a great interactive job board. But I would say from an experienced hire perspective, we do utilize the LinkedIn significantly to make those connections. The other great resource is actually turning our potential team members or our team members at Padgett into champions for us. So we do, marketing does work with HR to create a lot of tools that we can put into their hands when we're trying to fill particular positions. And we do that because we realize that they can tell our story firsthand, and so we then encourage them to get out to clients or the referral sources or friends of the firm. From a marketing perspective, we make sure we're communicating with key trade associations or even just civic organizations. We work very closely with a number of chambers in the San Antonio and Austin market, and what we find is when we support them greatly, they are more than willing to help us get the word out to their membership who's got connections of potential recruits. And so we just make sure we're touching all of those bases. For marketing, the key thing is making sure that we are actually preparing a consistent branded message so that whatever is going out, it's reflective of the firm's overall brand, and it's got the key message points that we want the marketplace to know as we're trying to identify those recruits.
Thank you. And what about you, Summer? Would you tend to agree with the other three ladies? Are you employing any other popular tactics?
I agree wholeheartedly. Being a larger firm, it is difficult to it's difficult to match up personalities and cultures by office. For instance, the Atlanta and Charlotte office, they're going to have a different feel and a different candidate that we're looking for versus maybe Memphis or Greenville, South Carolina. So that really only comes across in person. And another important important thing to mention is that we want to get as true to their personality as possible, because like everyone else is saying, ultimately these candidates that we're hiring are going to go out to our clients. And so we want to make sure that we are sending the best and brightest out to our clients and that we retain the best and brightest. And so the way that we do that is to try to get as many touches with the candidates as possible, so that ultimately when we get to that interview, they're comfortable with us, they know who they're interviewing, they're prepared, and we're prepared, because it's really a mutual decision when it comes to us. And by that, I mean that we want them to be just as happy with us and do their research on us as much as we do it on them. And the way that we interact with them on campus, just like everyone else, is the career fairs, the association presentations, the socials, on-campus interviews, mock interviews, and any time that we invite a student to participate with us with these events, we also always make sure to invite our future hires that are still on campus. And it just adds another layer and a different perspective, so that if they have questions that they don't necessarily feel comfortable asking the recruiter or maybe a partner or an associate that's already there, they can talk to someone on their level.
Great. And you know, everyone has talked a lot about the in-person contact, the on-campus contact, the one-on-one. But what about college students reaching out via social media? Do you feel that this makes them less likely to connect via other methods like job postings or the in-person events and networking opportunities? Maria, can you speak to social media as a tool?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what we have found is they definitely are connecting through social media. Now, it wouldn't be necessarily all the avenues that we would have thought that they were interested in connecting with us, so it's been a learning process for us as we've gone through it. And I don't see them shying away from the traditional methods. I think they still understand the value of the in-person networking and job postings and things of that nature, because, you know, it's a generation when it comes to campus students that they like to research information before they start to make those connections. I think that helps them to do some assessing in their own mindset as to, are you already a potential fit for who they want to be as they're, you know, establishing their career. So, you know, we are connecting. Probably the greatest amount that we're connecting is through LinkedIn. We have the knowledge that a lot of the universities and the professors are encouraging students to get on LinkedIn and to start that. And that's, you know, it's no wonder. There's over 150 million users that are on LinkedIn. And when you look at the stats for 2012, 38.2% of them said they liked LinkedIn because it helped reveal potential job opportunities. And so, you know, we stopped to look for, okay, if we've got followers that are from universities as, you know, fans for us on LinkedIn, how do we take that next step and keep the conversation going so we can learn more about them? Now, I'll tell you, we learned actually something quite interesting as it was related to Facebook. We felt like, you know, that's where so many students are and spend time, and surely they would want to be able to connect with us that way. And that's not to say that they aren't connecting with us. We definitely have a lot of them that we have met through the on-campus activities or the intern program that we have that are following us on Facebook. But what we're finding is they're also getting lots of warnings when it comes to campus professors telling them, don't even create a page, or if you are going to create a page, be sure to establish high levels of security for your site, because, you know, you could post something that you definitely don't want a future employer seeing. And so they're getting lots of warnings that way. So, you know, that we keep everything that we do on Facebook extremely light and more on the cultural side of our organization. You'll see a lot more of the fun facts of who we are as a culture. And that seems to be quite receptive with the people that are following us, as opposed to the LinkedIn side where they're looking for the business component of who we are as an organization. So we invest a lot more time putting that type of data on LinkedIn.
Thank you. And Summer, what about you?
Yep, I would have to agree also that our students are actually being advised by the professors not to link with us on on social media, meaning asking a recruiter to be your friend. Having that said, of course, we do have a social media presence, but it's more of a one-way communication, us getting that information out there to them. And it really just gives them a glimpse of what our culture is like. We rotate employees. So every week, a different employee will have a responsibility to post information on our different social media avenues. But again, it's really a one-way communication.
Right. This is Emily. I think it's really interesting that I wouldn't say that professors or college educators are giving conflicting advice, but I think it's interesting that they are starting to give more insight and more information about how college students should be managing themselves online or their online reputations, and how it really translates to potential job opportunities or interactions with employers. So I think it's very interesting to see the guidance that college students are receiving for how they're to be managing their relationships and their social media channels online.
Mm-hmm. And it also varies by college, too.
Right.
For instance, we have, I think, 2 colleges right off the top of my head, rather prestigious schools in North Carolina, that the recruiters aren't even allowed to give them our contact information, and they aren't allowed to give us theirs. So it's really just presentation-based. And so that there, heavily, we have to rely on other avenues, such as marketing and social media, to get our glimpse of our culture and values out to them that way.
That's a great way to, sell your firm as a place where somebody might want to work, because if you're talking about all the things that make your firm what it is, your key values, who you serve, what's important to you, that's going to help a college student or a potential employee identify whether or not it's going to be the right place for them to work. And
Right.
you can communicate so much of that information via social media and the web. So I think it's a great place to start to get the candidates that you're looking for, who are then hopefully going to be happy there with you.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked a little bit about some of the behavioral questions related to recruiting. We're going to shift now to some of the more tactical questions. So the first one I have is, can you give me examples of some of the things that you've done or that you are doing specifically to reach your recruits today? And I'd like to start off with Fonda and Mandy answering that question.
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, we do a lot on campus, but we focus on keeping in touch with the early job seekers, those freshmen, sophomores, first, second-year students that have already expressed interest in our firm through one of our meetings. We also have this where we partner with the student organizations, and we do stay in continuous contact with career services at each of our primary recruitment schools. And we really do try to leverage this relationship as much as possible to assist in our communications and outreach to them. One of the things that we do have is a Facebook page, but again, similar to Maria's firm, it's really dedicated, the focus on recruiting, but essentially showing our culture and the things that we're involved in. And we are encouraging followers at the college level. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mandy to add anything she might want to.
One of the things that we also do is that and one of you all mentioned this earlier, was working with the career services and with professors. One of the things I've found is when you can make those relationships, they are willing to listen and entertain feedback. And so as a result, and I know that Dixon Hughes Goodman in the Richmond area, as well as Kieter and many other firms, really pushed on one of the larger schools here, and they have now started a winter co-op program as a result of that. And so that's a great way for us to reach those students. While it's indirect, some of the schools, like I think it was Summer was saying, or maybe it was Maria, how the schools in North Carolina are hesitant to let the employers directly have access to some of the students. We face that as well. So we try to find ways that we can partner with the students through the professors and say, here's something we can offer, or here's some feedback, or have you thought about this? And that ultimately gets us into the students. So that's an indirect way. Some other things that we're doing are we're going to start a blog, and I know some of our competitors are doing that as well, where we are having HR as well as some of our staff, here's where we were, or here's what we did over the summer. We actually do helicopter rides for our interns. So I want to make sure that those pictures get out there again to generate some interest. It's not all about having fun and riding helicopters, but it just so happens that that's one of our clients, so we're able to tag a fun visit in with an educational business opportunity.
That sounds really cool, actually.
It is.
Maria, what about you? Can you give a few examples of some of the things you've done and what you're doing to reach recruits?
Well, we've got a lot of the similar things that we're focused on that Mandy and Fonda had mentioned, so I won't touch on those again because I think they did a great job of showcasing them. You know, for us, we actually realized probably about a year ago that we had a potential gold mine in our own office and we weren't taking advantage of it. And what I'm referring to is the fact that, you know, we have strategy sessions between HR and marketing on a regular basis. At a very minimum, we're meeting quarterly to just kind of assess our strategy, what else have we learned from campus career centers and professors and things of that nature, so we can continue to evolve the way that we're communicating and creating those touch points. But we also said, well, you know, we're here figuring everything out, and we've got interns that are here for weeks on end, and we're not asking them what's most meaningful to them and to the fellow student body. And so we actually have conducted focus groups to just tap into their mindset and to ask them everything from the very first time they interact with our organization as compared to other people they saw at the career fairs, to the one-on-one interviews, to the materials that we gave them at each touch point, including the promotional products. We wanted to know everything. And they were very helpful in helping us understand, here's what's meaningful to us, here's what we see way too much from, you know, people who are coming to campus. And we listened to that, and we actually utilized that to help refine what we were doing. You know, we even started to want to gain some of our own measuring and understanding of what materials that we were leaving as information about our organization was meaningful to students. And so, you know, as we go to different campuses, we started incorporating, utilizing QR codes on the materials. And so the QR codes, you have the ability as you create them to get specific in the coding to say, this is for this particular university, and it was for the Meet the Firm event, and so forth. And so what it happens is if somebody actually uses a QR reader on their smartphone and clicks on it, it tracks who clicked on it. And so we now have insight as to which campuses students use that type of technology and which ones, you know, don't. And it once again lets us also know which pieces of material that they pick up and read to the point that they now wanted to go further to our website, because all of our QR codes lead back to our website. That is our main hub of where we keep everything about our organization. So social media, advertising, materials that we leave in the marketplace, they all head back to the website, and we do a lot of tracking through Google Analytics to understand which pieces are creating a meaningful connection and which ones aren't. I'll tell you one other thing that we learned from the focus groups that we did with the interns is they said, turn us into your campus champions. Keep us constantly informed of what's happening at your organization so that we can share it with, you know, our friends on campus. And so we've made sure that we track how we're making those touches with the interns. We're making sure they get invites to all of our signature firm events. We're making sure that they're on our holiday card list. You know, just some of the basics that doesn't require a lot, but it definitely allows you to constantly stay connected with them. And if they've enjoyed their experience with your organization, they are your biggest champion and your biggest fan and a great resource for leading others to you as well.
That's been big for us too.
I think it's really interesting, you know, using your interns there as a resource to kind of help you. And I think it's also interesting that with each class of interns that come in, there's going to be, you know, different trends that you pull out from the things that they identified as working and being positive, and the things that maybe they identified that didn't work as well and maybe were something that turned them off from going to another firm. So just kind of pulling out information from them and identifying trends so that you can continually improve, adjust, and evolve, with each generation of new recruits that you're going to college campuses to hopefully bring into your firm. So we're going to move on. The question of, do you have a separate recruiting site, or is it a specific section of your current website? And either way, what is your reason for this strategy? So Summer, could you talk a little bit about just your presence on the web?
Sure. We have a microsite through, of course, our main site. And the reason it's been big for us is that it's more hip and fun. It looks a little different, and it's more relatable to our target audience, which are the students. And one thing that's important that we do is on our homepage for our recruiting site, we have videos from either the interns or new associates for each of our offices, and they're authentic, they're non-scripted, so that students can really go and feel like they're learning more about the culture and the type of people that work at each of the offices. So that's really been big for us. So they have their name and, of course, the office location and what school they went to, so it really gives a personal feel.
Great. And what about you, Maria? Do you have a separate recruiting site, or do you just have a presence on a specific section of your current firm website?
We actually have the second. We have a section devoted to careers on our existing website. And part of the reason that we did that is we knew we were going to set up our online application process through the website. And so what we wanted to be able to do is make sure that when applicants were coming there and they were looking in the careers section, that there was also lots of links that go to other sections of our website, such as community involvement or some of the things that we've been doing from just an involvement perspective with trade associations or articles we've written, or even just the things that we're doing to help train our employees. So it's all in there. It gives you information about our Padgett Stratemann University, which is an extremely important component of our organization, and we wanted to be able to let people understand that. We also wanted them to understand what the Padgett experience was about. So we have a lot of information in that section that defines what these 5 cultural behavior components are that we live and breathe and that are so important to us that we recognize each other. So there's kind of a testimonial section in there of when someone witnesses someone else in the organization living out one of these 5 dimensions. They can actually see how that person lived out, and then others can also see how we emulate each other by learning from one another through this Padgett experience. And, as Summer said, we also make sure that there's lots of fun photos in that section. We put some of our latest videos in that section. And we're also making sure that section is dedicated to showing what our marketplace differentiators are. We've done some of that research to understand when it comes to what we offer from a package perspective in comparison to other CPA firms in the Austin and San Antonio area, what's our strengths. And what we found was the support that they get from a CPA exam benefits and the bonuses that they get paid out as they get through the process. We also offer a lot of flex schedules. We have a lot of people who are on flex schedules because we realized that there were great individuals out there that could be a benefit to our organization, and we didn't want to walk away from those opportunities just because they wanted to create some type of balance between their personal life and their work life. And so we realized that that was a differentiator for us, and we definitely took advantage of that as well. So those were the reasons behind why we wanted to pull everything and keep it into our current site. For marketing, part of my role is to be able to take that step back and to say all the things that we're creating, whether it's on the client side or the recruiting side, are they connecting? Are they benefiting each other? And how do we continue to impact our visibility in the marketplace? And that was why we chose to make our website, our main website, our hub of all things. As I said before, everything directs back to it, and what we found was that started to significantly impact our SEO. So, we were researching and just randomly Googling general things like San Antonio CPA firms, and before we really began this strategy, we were pages and pages off of the first page, which everybody knows if you're not in the first couple of pages, it's not likely people are going to keep driving deeper into each of the pages to find you. You've got to be on the first couple of pages, preferably the first if you can get there. And what we've realized is this supportive strategy of connecting all the things we're doing and having it hub back to our website has made it so that a lot of those generic searches that we were doing in the past, we're now ranking on the first page for all of them. And so we're definitely seeing a positive impact. And so we were looking at a bigger picture than just, is it right for it to be here or is it right for it to be there?
Thank you, Maria. We're going to continue and skip a little bit through some of the questions, continuing to look at how you do what you do, how you accomplish the goals that you've set forth to meet. So how does a firm decide what to do and where to find the right candidates? And Fonda and Mandy, if you guys could take this question, I'd be curious to learn how your firm decides what to do and where to find the right candidates.
Sure. I think sometimes that can be a challenge. And one of the things that I think that we have firms of varying sizes on this call, one of the things that I have found in the past when I'm talking with firms who are smaller than we are is they think they need to wait in the spring and do their hiring in the spring and their recruiting. And so kudos to College Frog for alerting everyone that this is something that needs to happen in the fall. So I think that's step one, is to make sure that people are recruiting in the fall. So once everybody understands that, then I think the individual firms need to look at what their constraints are. Are they constrained by man hours and manpower? Is it money? Is it time? What are those constraints? Is it geography? If you are located in a smaller city where there aren't any large major universities with an accredited accounting program or some type of business major, that can be a little bit more challenging. So one of the first things that we do is we're located in Central Virginia, and we have some great schools in Virginia, so we focus primarily there. And only one or two of them do we have to do overnight stays with. So that's the first thing we look at, is location. Well, let me back up. First thing we look at is we need accounting majors, so we look at where they have accounting programs. There are a lot of colleges and universities around who do not have an accounting program. So since we're primarily hiring accounting majors, that's step one. And then we look at the geography and we look at who we have. I look at existing resources. Do we have people here who are teaching adjunct at their alma maters or at other schools? And we happen to have that. So that's a good end for me to start. Another thing that I'll do is, again, simple geography. We are located to the only or the largest public university in an urban setting in Virginia Commonwealth University. So we really like to leverage that relationship. It's very easy for us to do. And we also look at anybody who knows anybody. Some of our new recruits still keep in touch with professors. Some of our partners still keep in touch with professors. And again, sometimes it's as simple as, once you've determined who your targets are, whether that's based on geography or what, then most of the schools have excellent websites. They all have, if time and money is a constraint where you can't just go spend weeks like some of the Big Four firms do on campus, all the bigger schools have online where the students can apply online, and so we are obviously hooked into those. I keep in touch with career services, and so hopefully that gives you guys some ideas on how to find what your target schools might be.
Great.
Is there something else you wanted me to elaborate on there?
No, that was really, really good. In fact, we're almost at 11:45, so I'm just going to move to one last category of questions because I want to kind of cover all of these things. We're going to talk very quickly before we go to a Q&A about results. So I'd like if each of you could maybe talk about some of the ways that you measure success, or, even if you don't have specific means of measuring success, maybe some of the ways that you are able to identify ways to improve for the next year, because that certainly is a way of looking at your results. So Summer, do you maybe want to start off the conversation about measuring success, determining success, reaching goals, and improving for the next year?
Sure. Well, I have a feeling that we will all probably measure success by similar means, but we have well, last year we just implemented a new applicant tracking system, which is fairly sophisticated, and it allows us to track things such as diversity, GPA, retention, the conversion of a candidate from intern to associate, and then further from associate to senior associate to manager to senior manager, and in order for a candidate to move through those different venues, we have fairly structured guidelines and tracking when those candidates meet those guidelines. So we have a system that we rely on heavily, and forms within that system that we built to help measure our success.
And anybody else want to jump in, just talk generally about results and measuring success and improving for the next recruiting season?
This is Mandy. We do something similar. We just now are rolling out an applicant tracker, but a lot of our stuff has been tracked manually in the past. And one of the, I guess it was last year, we tracked, obviously, did we fill our openings? Did we fill our openings? And we had so many candidates for internships that I actually went back and got approval to double the size of our internship program. So we went from 6 to 12 in our Richmond office in the summertime. But one of the other statistics we like to track is, again, coming back to that concept of the touches. When we can get students to come to our office for some type of meeting or event, when we meet them on campus for a career fair, and we interview them on campus through an on-campus interview. At VCU, when we had a student who had attended something on-site, been through an on-campus interview, and had received an offer, we had a 100% acceptance rate. And that's I thought it was pretty impressive data for us to continue to be able to go to the COO and say, this is important, we need to continue to use our resources in this manner.
Great. So we're coming to the tail end, and right before we take some Q&A, I'd just like to have each of our panelists very briefly, if you could summarize maybe the 2 biggest themes for firms to focus on when it comes to recruiting marketing. I think that would be really, really helpful for those listening in on the call. So Fonda and Mandy, could you start off by maybe just briefly summarizing 2 of the biggest themes for firms to focus on?
Okay, for what we focus on, I think it's so important. Everything you do is matching the culture of your firm and your branding in all of the recruiting and marketing communications and platforms, no matter what it is. That's key. All of that has to match that culture and brand. And then secondly, really this is hopefully a stretch goal for everybody and something that's just mandatory. You have to keep innovating to attract the hires that fit your culture. So if something new pops up next year, we got to be ready to embrace it and hit the ground running.
Great. Summer, do you have something to add as far as a summary of maybe 2 of the biggest themes for firms to focus on?
Yeah, I agree. First and foremost, it all goes back to culture. It all goes back to the values of your firm. And, of course, marketing, website, and social media helps prospective employees get a good glimpse of what it's like to work here and ultimately recruit like-minded candidates, and so that the candidates can easily know if they, in return, will be a good fit.
Great. And Maria, what about you?
Well, I think they've really touched on the 2 that I completely agree with. You know, for us, the top one is always about telling the Padgett experience story, because if you can do a good job of sharing that story, people can envision themselves at your organization, and they'll get excited about it. They'll be able to tell the difference between when someone else tells their story, whether or not it felt like the right place for them, or whether or not your organization is a better fit for them. And that's what you ultimately want. You want them to be excited that they have found some place that they can not only develop their career, but that they can build a family and a home, someplace that they're completely comfortable with. And so the other part is I completely agree with Mandy. We make so sure that everything that we're creating, regardless on what side of the house that it is for our firm, everything has to speak the same story. Everything has to represent our overall brand and has to be a clear representation of what our organization stands for and what differentiates us from others.
Well, thank you very much, guys. I'm going to hand it actually back to Jeff at College Frog, who's going to see if we have any questions that all of our panel members might be able to answer for those listening in.
Thanks, Emily. We do have a lot of questions,
Oh.
especially around sort of the brass tacks of getting some of these initiatives and strategies accomplished. I think what the audience is looking for is they've heard some great ideas. So how do you really do some of these things? And one of the first questions that came across was, and instead of just I'll just kind of throw this out to the audience, but one of you brought up how the students are on social media. What specific social media campaigns have any of you actually run for college, or what is your real strategy? Heard a little bit of an answer there, but just want to see if there's any more stories you could tell about what you've done. Actually tried to put out there whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest or whatever. So
I can speak to that. This is Summer from Dixon Hughes Goodman. One thing in particular that we do that's kind of fun, and the whole thing that we do, we want to keep it fun and fresh and hip for the students. Every year we have what's called a Count the Cans drive, and all the offices compete to see how many cans they can either get donated or go out and purchase, right? So the interns, and it's always in the summer, and so our summer interns then take all of the cans and they build some kind of can structure. We had one person or one team build a toilet one year, and it was this huge toilet made out of tuna cans. And and so we take a picture of it and we load it onto Facebook, and whatever picture gets the most likes wins a prize. And that in turn helps us, or it allows the students to kind of promote Dixon Hughes Goodman, get their other friends and everyone else to like our page in order to like their picture, and then all of the employees go in and get involved too. So that's something fun. That's one thing fun that we've done.
Perfect example. Thank you for sharing that. And anyone else that has something they'd like to throw out there that they've done in the last recently?
Jeff, this is Emily. I just wanted to share, some of the ways that we use social media specifically during recruiting season. I mean, it's always happening on the background, throughout the rest of the year. We're making sure that we plug in content throughout the rest of the year, but when we're focusing on recruiting season, we're really making sure that the content on all of our social platforms is kind of recruiting focused. So we're speaking to a particular audience. We're representing our corporate culture and our brand very strongly on all of those channels. We're communicating information about, let's say, events on college campuses or current job opportunities available. We're continually engaging with not only users on social media platforms, but let's say our community partners as well, nonprofit organizations, the local colleges, the local college sports teams even. So we're just very heavily recruiting focused during the time, those fall months that we're out there, out and about, boots on the ground, and we make sure that the activity on our social platforms kind of mirrors whom we're looking to go after right around that time.
Great example, and I wanted to iterate, this is just a nice channel to have communication very, very in a flexible way with an audience. And one thing that I wanted to add to the comments that we've heard is that you need to have, and Summer mentioned this, good information relevant to a college student on your career site. And a lot of mid-market firms just don't have that. It simply says, if you want to apply for a university position, click here. Now, it's not acceptable, and I think everyone on the panel would agree with that. Let me ask you another question. I'm going to try to get through a lot of these, but we may have more than time permits. But can someone just tell us what their internship program looks like? And do they have any special projects or ways that they evaluate interns that you think may be unique to your firm? And kind of down that same vein, are there any attributes of your internship program that seem to attract students over your competition?
I'll take that one. This is Mandy at Kieter, and one of the things that differentiates our internship program is, actually there are probably two things that are very appealing to a student. Number one, we will accept students who are 2 years out into our internship program from their 150 versus 1 year. We accept 1 years too. And we also have them rotate, and they spend 1 month in audit and 1 month in tax, so we don't make them choose. Now, the goal of our internship program is twofold. We want to provide them with a meaningful experience, and let's face it, we want a pipeline. I think everybody on the call would agree with that. And so we try to balance that. We do client visits, as I mentioned before, and we try to obviously pick some of our more, let's call them fun clients. But we find that it's very valuable when the interns see the partners interacting and the managers interacting with their clients, the business owners, and our community. We also have several of our clients are nonprofit organizations, so we will try to have 1, if not 2, events or times where the interns will go and really do community service for either a half day or an entire day. We also have partners who host dinners at their houses. We have weekly feedback. We actually have, through our electronic or our online performance management system, a very brief, I think it's 5 or 6 questions that we ask the interns to submit to the people that they work with during a week so that they get real-time feedback. So they can access that. They don't see who is giving the feedback, but they can see the feedback, and the questions are fairly simple, and people can expand upon that if they like. So we're trying to provide that meaningful experience, give them some fun, and really give them exposure to the public accounting world at our firm and to audit and to tax.
I would add to what Mandy had mentioned. We're doing a lot of the similar type of things. What we've decided our intern program needed to be about was to showcase some of the core elements of what we feel are the most important parts of our organization. So one of the things that happens as soon as someone is onboarded is everybody in the organization is given a career advisor. And so we do the exact same with the interns, and those career advisors go through training so that they understand how to really be an advocate for the person that they're mentoring, and they are constantly connecting with them through the entire process of when they're working for an organization. They're giving them advice as they're trying out both the audit and the tax side of our organization. And then we also give them some positive feedback or constructive advice on how they can continue to grow themselves. And then we even allow them to be able to share some information back to us of, well, how did we help you? You know, were we good leaders? Did we fail in some way? Could we get stronger in some component? Because we want them to understand that when they come into our organization, that everybody has a valued voice, and that we're a 360 organization. Commentaries going in every direction because we can all learn something, whether it's, you know, peer-to-peer or up-to-down feedback. For our Padgett Stratemann, community involvement is huge, and that's something we express as we're connecting with potential recruits, is that you got to have a heart for community, because our organization as a whole does. We're very well known in the community as being extremely philanthropic, whether that is allowing employees time to go sit on a board or go participate on a planning committee or go volunteer. We want them to understand, so we too get them involved in a couple of community involvement events, and we change it up every year. We do different things, so it's not always the exact same thing. And then, you know, we kind of cap it off with a couple of events, with the top event being we do a progressive dinner going from partner to partner's house one evening, just so that we can thank them for all that we've obtained from them being a part of our organization as they went through our intern program, and also for us being able to just hopefully leave them with something positive about the experience they've had at our organization.
These are great answers. We're bumping up against the top of the hour, and what I wanted to do is ask at least one more question and see if there's a good. Because I know it'll be important for everybody. What we may do is extend this just to hear this question and sort of wrap up. So we'll be 1 or 2 minutes late. If any, including panelists, if panelists or attendees need to jump off, no problem. This recording will be available. But I did want to throw this last question out there, and it has to do with professors. And this is an important question, I think, for smaller firms. But how do you leverage your relationships with professors to develop a stronger relationship with the universities? And to Mandy's point, to ultimately, have students referred to your firm from these professors. Any good examples out there?
I can start the conversation off on that. This is Summer with Dixon Hughes Goodman. We used to do specific like CPE events just for professors. And at the end of the day, we just didn't really feel we were making that much traction. And so what we've started doing is inviting the professors to the social events that we invite the prospective employees to. And when they come, of course, we give them a special gift, and there's some schools that we financially support, and we make a big presentation of it in front of their students when we deliver the check to them. But as far as doing something just for the professors, we have sort of shied away from doing that, and instead involving them with the candidate socials and other events.
All right. Anybody else have a different strategy with developing relationships with professors?
This is Mandy with Kieter. We highly encourage our employees to stay in touch with their professors. Some of our partners will play golf with their professors. I have to agree with Summer. It's very challenging, and at some of the schools, as I mentioned before, the professors just won't even let their classroom time be used with recruiters on the accounting side. Finance, marketing, absolutely, but the accountants have really clamped down a little bit on that. So we encourage our staff to do that. We, too, have had events here where we've invited them to things. But what I have found is when we are on campus, sometimes we'll just go set up a table in the business school atrium for company day. When the professors come by, that's when I try to develop those relationships and talk about what can we do to help you. Whether it's providing calculators for the classrooms when they need them, that was back in the day. But, sometimes just having a conversation with them. They'll stay in front of you, and then at some of the larger schools, they actually have a liaison between the students, among the students, the faculty, career services, and the employers. And that's been a critical key for us. If the university has that type of person, or sometimes they are in the career services where career services is really connected to the professors, then we will really rely and leverage that relationship.
I've also heard a best practice of having your partners develop deeper relationships with the universities by teaching case studies in a local class. Coming and doing a business ethics study or teaching a case to the accounting students. Just a great way for a smaller firm to begin to connect. What I'd like to do is there's a few questions that were not answered. And if it's okay with our panelists, I would like to email those questions out, and if I get a quick answer from you, I'll compile the answers and send it back out to the attendees. I think it's a sign there's a lot of good content out here. There's a couple questions about LinkedIn that I'd like to share with you specifically. So Kim, if you're still out there, I'll make sure you get an answer to that question. So since we're running over, I'll wrap it up. At first, thank you all so much for just an insightful panel. Maria and Summer, Mandy, Fonda, and Emily, thanks for moderating this. I think that the indication is from a lot of the questions is that there's still a lot of curiosity out there about how to really do a great job on campus, especially from people who are maybe administrators or HR generalists. And so thank you for your great advice. I started off talking about the Association of Accounting Marketing. For anyone on the call who has any questions about learning more about Association for AIM, it's a really fantastic group that I have grown quite fond of over the past year. I've been working with AIM, and they have a special offer, and I'll email this to everybody after the call, but just a special offer if anyone has an interest in being a part of this great group. They have a great offer for Meet the Firms participants. And lastly, if you haven't participated in Meet the Firms Week, please do build a profile. We're right now the fastest growing network of accounting student job seekers out there, and have had over 2,000 college student job seekers sign up in the last 7 days, searching for jobs with mid-market firms like yours. So hope that you'll build a profile on College Frog and email us if you have any questions. We'll sign off for now. The recording will be sent to everybody on the call. It will be sent out later this week or Monday at the latest. And panelists, thank you all so much again for participating. This has been a lot of fun. You'll get an email from me in a few minutes with a few of these follow-up questions. If you don't mind and you get a chance today, send me back. Emily, thank you so much for moderating, and I hope everybody has an awesome rest of the day, okay?
Yep, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Great job, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.